Good evening, everybody. My name is John Mitskill. I'm the Executive Director of the East Central European Center here at Columbia. And together with our Polish colleagues at the mission to the UN, we decided to organize a little session on the Eastern Partnership. We thought it was a very good thing to do because few of our students are actively interested in the Eastern Partnership, frankly because it's not really gotten a lot of press in this country. This is probably not going to have very far-reaching consequences, but we thought that we would open a dialogue with people and invite our colleagues from the Eastern Partnership member countries, along with other people at the United Nations and our students, to have a short chat about what the Eastern Partnership is all about and what it's supposed to do. Some of you may know that about 6 weeks ago there was a summit in Warsaw of the Eastern Partnership countries. And I'm not going to tell you very much about it because you've got a lot of people coming to do exactly that, to give you the progress report on what is happening with the partnership. I will say this, that all summits produce a final declaration, a summing up of their activities. And if we believe what is written, we should be happy because, and I will quote just one sentence, much has been achieved already. And we'll probably hear today about what has been achieved from the representatives of those countries that expect to receive some benefits from being members of the partnership. It's my very pleasant duty to introduce to you Ambassador Witold Sobków, the permanent representative of the Republic of Poland to the United Nations. I have to tell you that as a co-organizer of this event, he's a terrific man to work with. Nothing is impossible, nothing can't be done, and I'm very happy to be able to ask him now to make his remarks and to introduce the new EU delegation chief. So, Ambassador Sobków.
Thank you very much, Professor Mitskill. Shall I speak from here?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I was very happy to respond as quickly as possible to the initiative of Professor Mitskill because for many reasons. One of the reasons is that what the professor has just said, that nothing is impossible. It reminds me of the beginnings of the Eastern Partnership when we thought that this is so difficult at the beginning, but we want to do our best to have this initiative in the European Union. So we started also with this premise that nothing is impossible. And at that time, Thomas, my good colleague, also the political director of Austria, worked on this initiative at the same time. So this is a coincidence that we are here. but Thomas remembers very well all the efforts, and his support was second to none, the support of his country. So let me, as a co-author of this initiative, because this is how it started. In Poland, but not only in Poland. Let me say a few words about this initiative. Let me tell you a tale. Let's say how we approached it from the very beginning. It all started more or less in 2006, some time ago, where we discussed at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Poland how we should strengthen let's say the eastern branch of the neighborhood policy, because we have a so-called southern branch, Mediterranean branch, let's say, and the eastern branch, and we thought that there is a kind of imbalance between those two, an imbalance that is clearly visible in financing. For example, that 2/3 of funds went to the south and only one third went to the east, but also in other areas of the neighborhood policy. So we wanted to have a very strong pillar of the Eastern neighborhood policy. At that time, we started discussing how we could approach this, and we thought that we could talk to our partners in the Visegrad Group and the Baltic states, and this is what we did. I mean, we had very close cooperation at that time with our partners from the Visegrad Group, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Hungary, together with Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania, which culminated in our meeting in Prague. I think it was March 2008, if I'm not mistaken. when we met, and we prepared a kind of non-paper for the European Commission. This was a prelude to the Eastern Partnership. And after this, we sat at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Poland, and we thought perhaps we shouldn't stop there. I mean, we have a good non-paper that we presented to the European Commission. We are in touch with the EU institutions, but why stop there? I mean, we should continue, even if this is not a very easy task. It was not easy for many reasons. First of all, we had to work on three fronts somehow. We had to have an agreement of 27 members of the European Union on how we want to approach this initiative. We had to have an agreement of the 6 countries of the Eastern Partnership. And we had to convince the European Commission, the Council, the institutions in Brussels. So it was very difficult because we worked on different levels, and as you can imagine, there were differences. But we have always stressed that our intention is not to somehow take funds from the Southern Mediterranean policy, which is extremely important for the European Union. Our intention is not to not to have a zero-sum game. I mean, if we do something for the for Eastern Europe, it's not losing something for Southern Europe, because both are important, and we wanted to underline this. And we had a very good reception in the European institutions. So when we decided to present this initiative as an official initiative, we asked Sweden, and Charles d'Affaires is present here. We asked Sweden to join this initiative. We thought that Sweden, with its experience in the European Union, being not a founding member, but being not a new country, in between, a very important member of the European Union, also a neutral country, which had also its a lot of advantages. A country that has also an excellent civil service, and also people who work for Brussels, for the institutions, and with Carl Bildt, who is also my champion. I follow his Twitters and his blog all the time, and a good friend of my ministers. We thought that perhaps we could do it together, combining somehow our knowledge of the region and the culture and the language and everything, with the experience of Sweden as a member of the EU, and also a combined position of Poland from Central Europe and Sweden representing also a wider region in Europe, would be second to none, and which we did, and I can say that it was an excellent cooperation. It has been going on all the time, even if this is a European initiative. And this has been a European initiative since the summit in Prague in May 2009. So this is not a Polish-Swedish initiative anymore, but it started with Poland and Sweden, and we are very happy to cooperate on this. We work also on 2 other levels. One was bilateral, one was multilateral cooperation. We thought that it's necessary to strengthen bilateral cooperation between our friends in the East, with the European Union, but also to have a multilateral platform of cooperation. Another let's say, level of this cooperation was not just between the EU and the 6 countries of the Eastern Partnership, but also encouraging the 6 countries to cooperate between themselves. Because this is what we did in Central Europe. It started with the Visegrad Group. We had CEFTA, Central European Free Trade Area, which could be an example, let's say, how to cooperate in the area of trade between the countries in the region. Not necessarily EU and the 6, but between the countries, like we did, CEFTA, Central European Free Trade Area. We cooperated in the Visegrad Group. We cooperated with other countries later to be well prepared for membership, because this was our intention. That the Eastern Partnership is not in any way a replacement of membership. This is nothing like this. This is an initiative that was supposed to do what other countries of the European Union did for us when we were preparing for membership. It's called, for example, approximation of laws or harmonization of laws. This is what we did in Poland. We did it a long time before our membership. Each legal act in Poland since 1989, even if we didn't start our negotiations at that time, but this was a policy of our first minister, and let's say democratic minister, Mr. Skubiszewski, had to have this clause compatible with the EU legislation. Because we thought that one day we will become a member of the EU, and I'm speaking about 89, and we became a member of the EU on the 1st of May 2004, so it took a long time. But this approximation of the legal base, for example, this was one of the aims. A new quality of relations between the EU and the partners. We aimed at a kind of political association agreements that would be accompanied by the comprehensive free trade areas. So political and trade also. But also people-to-people contacts between parliamentarians, cooperation in science and technology, in energy, etc. That is why we established those thematic platforms in the multilateral cooperation. Democracy and good governance and stability, it was one. Economic integration, convergence with EU policies, energy security, contacts between people, etc. At the same time, we respected a few principles. One was ownership, the principle of ownership. Each country of the Eastern Partnership had the ownership. I mean, it was up to that country to decide how much of this cooperation it wants to see with the European Union, and also the principle of differentiation, because each country was different. So we respected those principles of shared ownership and differentiation. We also informed our neighborhood about the initiative from the very beginning. And we must be very careful here, because it was not asking for permission. It was, for example, when we went to Moscow to speak about this initiative, it was not to ask for permission if Russia can agree to this, because these are sovereign countries, so Russia has nothing to say in this, what sovereign countries will do. But we wanted to be transparent, fully transparent, and we kept informing Moscow, for example Moscow, but also other countries. We talked to Norway, we talked to Iceland, we talked to other countries outside the EU, what we want to do, and how we want to do this, and what this initiative is about. So we were fully transparent with all those countries, and also with countries outside Europe. First of all, Japan, the United States, Canada, South Korea to some extent. Countries that were interested to be a part of this initiative, to cooperate, to contribute to this initiative, which happened. It culminated in the formation of the Group of Friends of the Eastern Partnership. The Group of Friends of the Eastern Partnership is a group of countries that want to contribute, they want to be a part of this initiative. And these are countries, very influential countries that are interested, like, as I have mentioned, Japan, Canada, the USA, Switzerland, Iceland, a lot of Norway, countries outside the European Union that want to cooperate. It was our idea to have this group of friends of the Eastern Partnership, and we managed to do this. Another idea was to have more and more people-to-people contacts. For example, between parliamentarians. We called it Euronest, this initiative, that parliamentarians could meet. To encourage practical cooperation between companies, for example, small and medium companies. We wanted this initiative to be very practical, not something theoretical. It's not preaching, because we had the same experience. We can share this experience, especially new members of the EU. So we wanted just somehow to assist the efforts of our partners in their preparations for the EU membership, which we hope is going to happen. We strongly believe in this. So, as a matter of practicality, we wanted to have this to have this very practical cooperation. For example, a project on the integrated border management. One of the things that we discussed, and we had a budget of 50 million euro. SME facility, small and medium enterprises facility, 57 million euros on this. A project, East Invest. East Invest, 7 million euros, is a project to improve the investment climate in the region. Preparedness for natural disasters and man-made disasters. How to cooperate together if unfortunately something like this happens. 6 million euros for this. Environmental governance, something very practical. Environment, pollution does not respect borders. They cross the borders. So this was very important. The Eastern Europe energy efficiency, how to eliminate waste in energy, etc. A lot of initiative of this kind. We also developed a platform for the civic society. We have the first civil society forum of the Eastern Partnership in December 2009 in Brussels. So those contacts were also established between NGOs, between representatives of the civil society. So we have been doing this, and we are aiming at finishing our plans to have excellent new generation agreements between the EU and the partner states, to have the comprehensive and deep free trade areas between the partners and the EU countries, and to have this approximation towards the EU to such an extent that the countries that are partners, 6 countries, could become members of the EU with our help, friendly help of the neighbors. The last event that we had was the Warsaw Eastern Partnership Summit that has just been mentioned by Professor Mickiel at the end of September. At this summit, we tried to sum up what we have done. We wanted also to envisage our plan for the future, what we are supposed to do, what remains to be done, and a lot remains to be done. And we underline in the declaration, you can find this on the internet, joint declaration from the Warsaw Eastern Partnership Summit, how we want to deepen our cooperation in all those spheres that I have just mentioned. So perhaps I will stop here, and I will ask my colleague, the ambassador representing the EU delegation at the moment, but the former ambassador of Austria by the UN, to say a few words on the Eastern Partnership. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Professor. Professors, thank you, Witold, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I think that one of the things why you discover that this is a Central and Eastern European event is that in Central and Eastern Europe, all academic events start 15 minutes late at least. This is a regional tradition that we share, and I excuse myself, I apologize to those who are not yet used to this academic tradition, point one. The second point is that I'm impressed by the number of ambassadorial colleagues you've been able to attract here, Witold, and you, Professor. I think it's the highest ratio of ambassadors to students that I've ever seen in my life, to be quite honest. And it goes far beyond the partnership. I'm pleased not only to have our Eastern and European and Nordic friends here. I see that our good colleague from Turkey, Ambassador Apakan, is here, a candidate country, and I see that our interest extends to the east, to the west, even to New Zealand, which I consider an outstanding achievement. The other thing I wanted to say is, before I say something more technical on the Warsaw meeting and on the Eastern European Summit and some other more practical issues, when I started out to study European affairs in the late 1970s at the College of Europe in Bruges, under a Polish rector, by the way, at the time, which was considered sensational. That was a time when the European communities, as they were called, had 9 members. When we spoke about Eurosclerosis, and the word Eurosclerosis was not linked to the euro because that didn't exist at the time, but to Europe and the sclerotic atmosphere altogether. And my own country was firmly convinced that because of the international order, it was out of the question that we would ever become member of the European communities. So you see that things are more dynamic than they seem, and the European communities and the European Union has gone through quite a number of crises in their history, and in a certain sense, and I think it's important to say this in these days, it has come out of all these crises strengthened and with a wider vision. When I studied in the late 70s, nobody had any idea that, or any imagination that the European communities would have an Eastern dimension, or even the kind of dimension that we're discussing today. It was considered as interesting to have a Polish dissident as rector of the College of Europe, but nobody would have imagined that Poland, we considered the membership of Poland at least as unlikely as the membership of Austria in the European communities at that time. And in fact, with every single enlargement, the European integration process has gained a new geographic dimension. Nobody saw a global role of a global player for the European communities of the six. That was a construction to create peace between Germany and France, basically, with the United Kingdom and others joining. There was a new trans-Atlantic dimension. There was a new dimension into other regions, into Africa, when we joined with our Nordic friends with Finland and Sweden in the middle of the 90s. Finland and Sweden already contributed an important Eastern European and Nordic dimension. We tried to be helpful in with Central Europe and also with Southeastern Europe. And in a certain sense, we were a precursor of the great enlargement that came in 2004. And in fact, it was that enlargement which opened the door to the Eastern dimension that we are discussing about today. And I think it's a great achievement of our friends and colleagues from Central Europe to have made this discussion possible and have, and by the way, I think the point that you started out with was a very important point, because I think we always talk about the European neighborhood policy, but it was you who underlined, and in a very clear way, that there was a major difference between the qualities of neighborhood and the relationships we had with neighbors in various geographic directions. And I mean, if we speak about our eastern neighborhood, I mean, the main point that makes it different from many other neighborhoods is that we share the same continent with these neighbors, and I think that is a very important point. It's an honor to participate in this important event, and it's a timely opportunity for this kind of discussion just a few weeks after the second Eastern European Summit held in Warsaw on the 29th and 30th of September. More than 2 years have passed since the leaders of the European Union agreed the time was ripe to step up the relations of the European Union with its eastern neighbors, and by doing so to respond also to their wish to come closer to the European Union. On the basis of common interests and shared values, the Eastern Partnership offers both bilateral and multilateral measures for enhanced cooperation. Our partnership is firmly rooted in a joint commitment to the values of democracy, human rights, pluralism, good governance, and the rule of law. By the way, subjects that we also defend here together in the UN context. And it's very interesting when the European Union speaks in the United Nations, and when I have the honor to speak, when I'm given the possibility to speak, you have all sorts. You have a big group of countries that align themselves traditionally with our position. So in fact, we are proud to be able to present the views of a big group of countries with whom we are friends, neighbors, and partners. The outcome of the Warsaw Summit gives a good indication of the progress made so far, and I'll just highlight some results, and you, Witold, have already mentioned some of the most important ones. All participants in the summit called for the strengthening of the partnership within the diversity of their European aspirations. All Eastern partners reiterated their commitment to build deep and sustainable democracies. There was an agreement to sign an association agreement, including, I'm sorry for this terminology, but that's how we call these things, a deep and comprehensive free trade area with Ukraine by the end of 2011, which I think is an important step forward already, and similar negotiations with Moldova and Georgia, where have also started. All partner countries will enhance their participation in European Union programs and agencies with the implementation of 5 flagship initiatives covering a diversity of sectors, and you mentioned some of them already. Border management, which is of course a concern we share in a great deal because of internal security concerns that we share, economic development, energy, transport, environmental protection, social and the human dimension. Both High Representative Ashton and the European Commission were tasked with preparing an Eastern Partnership roadmap by the end of this year. Work has already started, and this is exactly the technique with which the European Union systematically develops its relationships. A roadmap is a very good starting point. Additional funds have been announced. To give you a global figure, total financing of the partnership has now reached almost €2 billion. The European Commission is now preparing proposals to allocate additional resources for the period 2012 to 2013. But it's not only, and I think this is an important point that one needs to make, about political symmetry and meetings of leaders. The Eastern Partnership is also about engaging civil societies and business sectors, and first and foremost about achieving results. Our agreements affect business and citizens in several specific ways, as they cover most aspects of economic life, from consumer protection to company law, from environmental protection to education and training. We are committed to assisting our Eastern partners to develop business cultures and regulatory regimes compatible with our rules on trade and investment for the benefits of all. Transport cooperation is a clear example, with the recent launch of the Eastern Partnership Transport Panel to make travel easier for people and ensure that goods can be transported efficiently. Negotiations on a comprehensive aviation agreement with Moldova are ongoing and about to start with Azerbaijan. All partners are also committed to plan a regional transport network for the Eastern Partnership region that connects with the European Union and between the countries themselves. The EU experience is a good example of the potential of this type of cooperation, and recently released statistics confirm its importance. Since the year 2000, the European Partnership's countries' share of European Union trade has doubled, and I think that is also worthwhile mentioning. European Union's relations with its partners cannot reach their full potential whilst conflicts persist in the region. Conflict must end for the reforms to have their full effect and for democracy to grow. Security and prosperity in Europe depends on the stability of our Eastern partners, and as you can imagine, we stand ready to support any confidence building and reconciliation efforts, and the Union as such and many of its members are involved in important efforts on the ground. The European Union, I believe, has the means and also the experience to be of assistance. And let me say a special word about Belarus. I'm very pleased that the Chargé is here today as well. We have worked together, my own country, Austria, with Belarus in European fora such as the Central European Initiative. We remain attached to the vision of a democratic country with the place it deserves in European cooperation. I can only once again reiterate that progress in Belarus in the fields of democratization and respect for human rights would quickly translate into a full European Union engagement. Ladies and gentlemen, many voices claim that the economic crisis or developments in Southern Mediterranean rim hamper the attention that the European Union could and should devote to its eastern neighborhood. The outcome of the Warsaw Summit, and I think you made this point very clearly, Witold, and the examples of the actual cooperation I've just given are, to my belief, a clear proof of the opposite. In fact, we note greater involvement from Western European Union member states who, owing to the lack of traditional links with Eastern neighbors, initially displayed a limited interest for Eastern Partnership. For it's not all countries that, I mean, in our case, for instance, if you look at my own home country, Austria, the geographic distance between the border between Vienna and the western border of Ukraine, if you draw a line on a map, is shorter than the distance between Vienna and the western border of our own country. So in fact, that is a dimension that not everybody shares, but it's worthwhile saying that France and the Netherlands have recently appointed special representatives for the Eastern Partnership, and that I believe also shows a growing interest in the western part of the European Union. To conclude, let me just reiterate, ladies and gentlemen, that the Eastern Partnership is a credible framework and that the European Union is determined to pursue it with vigor. It is in our common interest. The success of the Eastern Partnership is a fundamental building block of a free, prosperous and peaceful European continent, and we're very happy that this great university helps us spread this message. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Excellency. Thank you, Thomas. If I may just add, at that time we coined two phrases to show the difference in the European neighborhood policy. European neighbors and the neighbors of Europe. European neighbors are the countries that the ambassadors present here represent. These are European neighbors. And the neighbors of Europe, equally important, but very different, are countries that are not going, at least in the near future, to become members of the European Union, countries of Northern Africa, for example. of the Middle East. So this is one thing. European neighbors, the neighbors of Europe. Another thing, enlargement. I mean, Poland in general supports enlargement, and we have a representative of Croatia here. Croatia is treated as an unfinished story from the 1st of May 2004, and we are very happy that the negotiations have been finished, and now is a period of ratification, so we want to welcome Croatia as soon as possible. Also our other Balkan friends, we have representatives from the countries of former Yugoslavia, and we really very much like to welcome them all in the European Union. And of course Turkey, the ambassador of Turkey is here. Poland is one of the staunchest supporters of Turkey's membership of the European Union. Turkey could provide a lot of fresh blood, let's say, to the works of the European Union. Is our fantastic ally in NATO, and Turkey, because of its policies in the Middle East, in the region, is a very important partner that could strengthen the work of the European Union. So in general, we support enlargement. I'm speaking as Poland at the moment, not as the presidency of the EU delegation. So this is just to add those two things. And now I think the program is as follows, that we will ask Ambassador Kuczynski, who is a former ambassador of Ukraine to the UN and now a lecturer at the university, to ask the ambassadors and representatives of the 6 countries present here to sit at the table and to address us, saying a few words about the situation regarding the Eastern Partnership in their countries, and then I guess the question.
Thank you very much. Good evening. I think now I'll be chairing this part of our meeting today, and I think we're coming to the most interesting part, because we'll hear now the representatives of member states of the Eastern Partnership. So we'll be able to compare how do they feel about being in that community. So with this, let me invite the permanent representatives who are here from the 6 members of Azerbaijan, Armenia, Moldova, Belarus, Ukraine, and Georgia to take the floor here. The permanent representative of Azerbaijan is on his way, so we'll start. May I ask the permanent representative of Armenia to start the discussion?
Thank you, Ambassador, and good evening, everybody. Let me join, maybe already has been said, the previous speakers in thanking the Columbia University and Permanent Mission of Poland and the Ambassador of Poland for organizing and hosting this event. I apologize for being late, and this is due to heavy engagement at the UN, as usual. For small countries, it's very difficult to catch up all the meetings, but I'm happy I was able to come at this stage, and also would like to express my gratefulness to the colleagues for their presence from the European Union and Eastern partners, as well as academic experts and students, and simply those who are interested in dealing with the Eastern Partnership integration matters and the Eastern Partnership program in particular. Creation of that program was a call of times indeed. It has opened the new prospects for the relations between European Union and its Eastern partners, including Armenia. Now, almost 2 years after its commencement, we had a chance a few weeks ago to make evaluation of the progress, and we were able to also to be represented on the highest level at the Warsaw Summit. And it was a chance for my country to reiterate its political will to move forward towards the implementation of the unconditional, if I may say, implementation of the program. These days we attach a great importance to the more reforms, more assistance principle, which has been developed after reviewing the Eastern Partnership policy. Principles of differentiated approach and involvement are also important, since each country deserves attitudes equivalent to its merits and progress. In Armenia, I can say that progress achieved in the negotiations on the association agreement. We have purposefully maintained and will continue with such a pace of advancement, and very recently had another round of negotiations and meetings, and the team was there from Brussels. Currently, we are taking necessary steps aimed at establishment with the European Union of a deep and comprehensive free trade zone, as it has been referred to by a distinguished ambassador of European Union. We view this process as an additional impetus for moving forward basic institutional and structural reforms in our country. And 2 years ago, we invited a group of European Union experts to our country to assist us in the implementation of the second phase of the reforms. Maybe at the later stage, if someone is interested, I'll be elaborating more on that program. And this is something that we are doing with the United Nations. It's partially funded by the UNDP. Today we are planning, with the assistance of our European partners, to start large-scale reforms in a number of areas, including areas in economy, good governance, democracy, human rights, rule of law, and different areas in public life. From Armenia's perspective, and not only, the European Union appears to the world as a unique example of political and economic integration. I'm confident that this experience can also be applicable or can also be employed in our part of the world and in South Caucasus in particular. Now you can ask, how about the existing conflicts and tensions in the region? Today we continue to adhere to the peaceful resolution of Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, and this is in a framework of the peace process conducted by the co-chairs of the OSCE Minsk Group. And in its turn, the EU stands on the position of creating favorable conditions for a peaceful resolution of that conflict and confidence-building measures, which is, of course, very commendable. We can use this opportunity wisely, and we all will benefit, both the partner states and the European member states. Armenia believes that not a single problem, including conflict, can obstruct cooperation if there is a desire and sufficient political will. If we are sincere in our commitment to common European values, if we want to have a more secure and prosperous region, if we truly view the Eastern Partnership as an initiative of opportunities, then we see no obstacle for a regional cooperation, interaction, and dialogue. EU has a pivotal role in promoting such a cooperation, and we anticipate consistency in reaffirming its own principles and values. Let me also mention that Eastern Partnership has proved its viability, creating prerequisites for establishing a closer cooperation between our societies, improved governance through giving new impetus and new quality to the reforms, for creating a more harmonious and prosperous European realm without dividing lines. I'm confident that in a cooperation with the European Union and Armenia's other developing partners, will be able to implement in the framework of Eastern Partnership many ambitious and important reformation programs. So I prefer to stop here, Ambassador, since I have been asked in the program to be brief, so that to allow time other participants to elaborate.
Thank you very much. And I would like to give the floor to the permanent representative of Georgia.
Thank you. My introductory remarks will be even briefer than those of my dear Armenian colleague. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to the Polish mission, to the UN, the Columbian University, and the European Union for getting all of us together to share our thoughts and national perspectives on the perspectives the Eastern Partnership is offering to the participating nations. It has been 2.5 years since the Eastern Partnership has been launched, and probably it's a good time horizon to sum up certain developments. Of the 6 instruments that the Eastern Partnership has offered to its member states, Georgia has been fully engaged in all of them. We consider the European Partnership as a very important tool that can provide necessary conditions for closer political associations and economic integration with the European Union. Although the Eastern Partnership has not declared its mission as being a vehicle towards the end goal of full membership into the European Union, to us we translated its mission as everything but institutions. So of the 6 instruments, as I mentioned, we have already agreed and signed the following agreements: the visa facilitation and readmission, the agreement on common aviation area, the agreement on mutual protection of geographical indications, and the joint declaration on mobility partnership. So 4 of 6 has already been agreed and signed. We have already launched the negotiations on the association agreement last July 2010. So we've been through it for quite some time now, and we're looking forward to launch the different comprehensive free trade agreement with the European Union as soon as before the end of this year, as the Warsaw Declaration says explicitly. So as I said, of the 6 instruments and mechanisms that the European Partnership has promised us, we've been fully engaged in all 6 of them, and so needless to say how important for us, for a country, an overwhelming population of which is in favor of the European perspective of Georgia, is to have a very, very tangible and practical and concrete mechanisms, including those of them that have very practical implications on the life of real people, including students and academicians and researchers, and who can travel now much more easily throughout the European Union due to the visa facilitation agreement and a number of others. So I'll stop here, and in anticipation that in the question and answer section of the panel discussion we will have more chance to look at socio-economic data and the way the European Partnership affects in positive way on the developmental issues as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Lamaya. Georgia has undoubtedly made a great progress in its European integration aspirations, let's put it this way. And now I would like to give the floor to Chargé d'Affaires of Belarus, Ms. Zoya Kalantai. You have the floor. Yes, please.
Thank you for Alexander. I'm honored. Well, just maybe to explain to the students why I answered in such a way. The thing is that Alexander Kalantai, and my last name is Kalantai, was a lady who was the first woman diplomat. And so having the same last name, so somehow I feel that it influenced me. And I wanted my parents, but I couldn't influence you, as you understand, well, just to give me this name. But they gave me, well, just the name Zoya, which I'm also very proud of. So thank you and sorry. I would like to thank the organizers of today's event for arranging this meeting and just giving us this possibility, or just to the representatives to the United Nations of the 6 countries that are just members of the European Partnership, to meet and to speak with the colleagues, and which is what is very important with the lecturers and research people and students of the Columbia University, which is well known, or just not only in this country where we're having a meeting today. Belarus, speaking about the European Partnership, I would like to say that Belarus has actively and in good faith contributed to the European Partnership since its inception through policy proposals, project ideas, and participation in flagship initiatives. And if you excuse me, definitely I look into my papers because honestly, as His Excellency, the permanent representative of Poland, put in his letter to us, indeed we're not here experts, at least I speak about myself, we're not experts in this field because European Partnership is not the competency of missions of the countries to the United Nations. But still, so that's why please excuse, but still at the same time, this is indeed a very good idea just to have this meeting. That's why I'll look into the papers, so again, forgive. Belarus is a participant of the multilateral component of the initiative of the European Union, which is called the European Partnership, and the initiative which envisages and will just more intensive and profound cooperation of the European Union with the 6 countries partners and the countries were named today. Belarus participates in the meetings of 4 multilateral thematic platforms of the European Partnership, and on such issues as democracy, effective state administration and stability, then economic integration, and will just rapprochement with the sectoral policy of the European Union, then energy security, and contacts between people, which is very, very important, people to people. From the beginning, Belarus spoke about its pragmatic interest in the European Partnership. And when we started, just our participation, we worked out a number of regional projects just to promote within this initiative. And they were mainly in the field of energy, transport, customs, nature conservation or environment, and other fields that we consider to be of priority just to us and to our neighbors. Belarus put forward a number of proposals which were included into the updated European neighborhood policy. The priority in Belarusian interests in the connection with the European Partnership are, I'll name some of them for your maybe understanding. Of course, they're not, I will not mention all of them, but only some. But still, these are the issues of national and all-European energy security, further integration into the system of European transport corridors, and development of transport and transit infrastructure, adoption of best European practices, and harmonization of national legislation with the European in accordance with the goals and tasks of the economic and political changes in our country. And this is what, again, I refer to the Ambassador of Poland spoke about, because this legislation aspect indeed is very important. So what is Belarusian contribution, because our approach to the European partnership is not that we're somebody who is taking something from European partners. We are also ready to contribute, and this is what we are doing. I'll give you some examples. Belarus initiated an idea of the European Business Forum, and I'm pleased to say that the first meeting of this forum took place in Sopot, Poland, in September this year. Here we act on the premises that such a forum should make countries' partners, so to say, more visible in Europe, and for the European investors, for the European business circle, so that this can help to establish these bridges and chains and connections between the business community in our countries and the business community of the EU countries. Besides that, with other countries, we also succeeded in organizing special EU format for cooperation in transport field. And the first meeting of the working group on transport took place this October in Brussels, followed by the first ministerial meeting or conference on transport on the 24th and 24th of October in Krakow. It was in 2009 when the ministers of foreign affairs of three countries, Belarus, Lithuania, and Ukraine, approached or sent to the leadership of the European Union proposals on the projects in the tripartite format to be carried out within the initiative of the European partnership. And among these projects were the projects on creation of an electronic system of pre-arrival information exchange between the customs authorities of Belarus and Ukraine, diversification of European partners' countries' energy mix, promotion of renewable energy in the European partnership region, enhancements of nuclear safety in the region, creation and function of electricity market, experiences and benefits. So this is just to show you what is the, for example, for my country and for neighboring countries, the interest in the European partnership, and at the same time what we see in what fields we can contribute to the development between our six countries and the countries of the European Union. My country is going to take an active part in the discussion of the roadmap on the European partnership, the draft of which we're expecting that will be presented soon by the European Commission, and this was also mentioned just today. We are ready to work in these and other fields, and thus contributing to the efficiency of the Eastern Partnership. But of course, I think it will be wrong to speak today and to look at our developments in our partnership, European partnership, only through the rosy glasses, so to say. Of course, we have problems. Some of them were mentioned just today already, we can say that we see some disbalances just in the functioning of our partnership, and to remove or eliminate serious disbalances in the advancement of partnership, in our opinion, it is necessary first to provide that all Eastern partners enjoy equal and non-discriminatory access to all European Union partners' tracks and formats. The actual extent of cooperation with each partner state and in each particular area, of course, may vary. Second, the political dialogue in the frames of the multilateral track should be complemented by the practical cooperation on topics of priorities to both Eastern partners and the European Union. such as I mentioned already, but I mean the energy field and transport connection, common environmental changes, business networking, etc. Third, project activity should be in the focus of the European partnership. Belarus put forward a proposal to think over a list of the Eastern European Partnership so-called strategic projects, which could be financed by the European or international donors. Though Belarus's long-term vision of its relations with the European Union does not include membership as the necessary destination, so to say, we so far continue to participate and are eager and will participate in the European partnership because we see its constructive potential, which answers the goals of the European dimension in our own policy. We believe that European partnership can be an effective regional mechanism if it keeps to the principles which were adopted in Prague in 2009, and the basic ones of which are the principles of joint ownership and responsibility of all 6 countries, partners, and the European Union for the development of the European partnership. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Kalantai. Now I'll give the floor to the permanent representative of Moldova, Ambassador Kuzba.
Thank you, Ambassador Kuczynski. While preparing for this interaction with students, I was thinking about the challenges that the Polish presidency is posing to us, because first of all, coming to SIPA from Midtown Manhattan is always a challenge. So you never know, will you be here 15 minutes before, 15 minutes late? So I started just noticing all those challenges, and finally I gave up. But I wanted to mention a couple of them. First of all, brief statements. I do not think so that a topic like European integration, a topic like cooperation and interaction of our countries with the European Union could be briefed in some short statements. And of course, while looking through the invitation, I've noticed that we'll be speaking off the record, but sitting here as the representatives of our countries, it is always challenging off the record or on the record. So anyway, it is good to have the possibility to address students and representatives of academia, because our interaction at the UN is informal or informal meeting, during informal meetings, or official statements that we have to present on behalf of our countries, and basically we have the statements ready from our capitals. While preparing for this interaction, personally, as my colleague Zoya mentioned, I was also challenged because this topic is covered by the Foreign Minister of Moldova, that is also the Ministry for Foreign Affairs and European integration. So at this moment, even though it is an unorthodox proposal, I would say that that is the Ministry of European Integration and Foreign Affairs, because European integration for Moldova is the top priority. Is the top priority that is included in the governmental program, in our foreign policy objectives, in our internal discussions and plans. So I tried to cut short the statement, basically some ideas that were prepared from my colleagues from the Foreign Ministry of Moldova. So I will try to be as brief as possible, maybe as brief as my colleagues. So our dialogue with the European Union in both political and sector areas has been dynamic and consistent for the last 2 years. The Moldovan government remained engaged in pursuing an ambitious agenda in conformity with the governmental activity program and ever-increasing standards of Moldova-European Union cooperation. Our efforts did not go unnoticed. We were pleased to see Moldova reflected in a positive context in a number of policy documents issued by the European institutions and the national statements of a great number of EU member states on different occasions. The joint communication of the EC and High Representative, a new response to a changing neighborhood of 25th of May this year, laid the ground for enhanced EU-Moldova dialogue. The more for more principle and that of differentiation has been recognized as one of the pillars of our future cooperation. In European Parliament, in its September resolution, alongside many positive assessments, acknowledgement of the European perspective for the Republic of Moldova was made. The Warsaw Eastern Partnership Summit joint declaration acknowledged progress made in different areas of our dialogue and set important benchmarks for Moldova for future cooperation. While looking through the declaration that has 9 pages, almost on each and every page you will find some characteristics like the dialogue on visa-free regimes have been launched with Ukraine and the Republic of Moldova. Good progress have been made in the association agreement negotiations with the Republic of Moldova. The participants of the Warsaw Summit take stock of progress made by the Republic of Moldova and Ukraine in the implementation of their respective action plans on visa liberalization. So we consider that this joint declaration was really encouraging for the states that are members of this Eastern Partnership, because it reflected both the results of our activities in our countries and also the positions of the EU member states. So we have taken note of the reflection in the Warsaw Summit declaration on the next financial framework and linkage to the more for more principle. While continuing the implementation of the EU-Moldova PCA action plan, we should explore together the possibility of launching the work on drafting the association agenda, bearing in mind the mentioned provisions of the summit declarations. Moldova's European perspectives remain an issue of permanent attention. Having a clear-cut objective would serve, first of all, as an incentive for national institutions and society to embrace reforms. Our political dialogue with the European Union is based on the founding values and principles of the Eastern Partnership, as shared values and principles of liberty, democracy, respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms, and the rule of law. Moldova is committed to these values, and the government program envisages concrete actions aimed at achieving these results. As stated earlier, political and economic reforms are already business as usual in Moldova. Enhanced political dialogue with the European institutions and the member states is part of our bilateral agenda. We increasingly align ourselves with the EU statements and political positions expressed by the European Union, and in this regard, I sincerely hope that after today's letter that was sent by our colleague, the head of the EU delegation, we will be able to proceed and we'll be able to align ourselves more frequently with the joint EU statements. Our trade increased with the European Union, and we seek increased also mobility. Virtually all venues of our political dialogues were used productively, while we consider that the time has come to move our sector cooperation to regular ministerial level encounters. We see the future association agreement as value-added contractual framework of our relations that would reflect this element as well. The dynamism of negotiations already provides for certain structural changes inside our administration, preparing us for the stage of our agreement's implementation. We are also participating in the formats, programs, and agencies of the European Union that are open for partners and plan to extend and diversify this type of our dialogue. The parliamentary, business community, and civil society interaction has been also intensified. In conclusion, I would like to mention that many of these values are founding elements of the Eastern Partnership that in 2 years from its launch has proven to be an efficient policy in our region. The Warsaw Summit was a good occasion to review the achievements and set the roadmap for next action. The Eastern Partnership Summit Joint Declaration reflected in a positive way the achievements Moldova has registered within this format. We have advocated for differentiation and more for more principle while assessing the reforms results, and stand ready to continue to contribute to the success of the Eastern Partnership for our joint benefit. Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you, Ambassador Kushba. Just for the reference sake, we're not only on the record, we're also being filmed, so don't worry. Now it gives me great pleasure to give the floor to my compatriot, to the permanent representative of Ukraine, Ambassador Yuri Sergeyev.
Thank you, Ambassador Kuczynski. Good evening to everyone. I'll try to be short. For Ukraine, Eastern Partnership is an important auxiliary instrument for the development of our relations with the European Union and promoting European integration aspirations, as well as a significant boost for the continuance of large-scale internal reforms. Eastern Partnership is expected to play a major role in supporting partner states in carrying out the reforms aimed in particular at the implementation of future association agreements. In due course, Ukraine has been the first to start its movement towards basic aims of Eastern Partnership, namely the transition of relations with the EU in the form of a political association and economic integration. The result of our joint efforts with the European Union in the near future will be the signing of association agreement and the establishment of deep and overall free trade zone area between Ukraine and the EU. The Ukrainian delegation at Warsaw Summit clearly stated that the agreement would become a milestone of full-scale political and economic integration of Ukraine to the EU. It is a step towards Europe in which there will be more freedom, freedom of trade, freedom of service exchange, freedom of capital and labor movement. In Warsaw, Ukrainian leaders reconfirmed our nation's ultimate goal of rapprochement with the European Union. Ukraine sees its historical place in the united Europe. For Ukraine, the vision is unequivocal. It reflects public aspirations and it is supported by national legislation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we have finished the part of the statements, and now we have a Q&A session, so your questions are welcomed. Please give your name, your affiliation, and try to be short. Please. The floor is yours. Yes, please. There is a mic here, yes.
Another ambassador. My name is Jarmo Linanen, and I'm the firm rep of Finland at the United Nations. And of course, I'm no expert on the Eastern Partnership either, as my colleague said. First of all, I'd like to thank the Polish mission to the United Nations and the Columbia University for organizing this very. But Finland is a very strong supporter of the Eastern Partnership and, of course, of the countries or Eastern partners. For us, it seems that the past decade has brought Eastern partners closer to the European Union than ever before. We are just not just neighbors. I think that we are Europeans facing the same challenges. Promoting stability, democracy and prosperity in Europe is clearly in the interest of all of us, has been very clearly stated also here. 2 years after the Prague summit, we can be proud of the achievements of the Eastern Partnership. Even though these 2 years is a relatively short time, but there has been good progress, especially what has been mentioned here, on negotiations on the association agreements, on free trade agreements, and also on the mobility issues. When Finland joined the European Union in '95, in the very late stages and the negotiations in '93 and '94, a lot of legends were created, and especially legendary stories about how difficult it is to have cooperation with the European Union, how difficult it is to negotiate with the European Union, because we have legendary stories how the European Union representatives never could actually understand the difficulties and the singularities we have in our relationship. It was fascinating to listen to you because nobody of you raised really of any of the difficulties you are facing probably with the European Union. And if you have any stories about that, I would be very, very interested to hear about and where you would like to see more rapid progress altogether. It was said that the Eastern Partnership is not a vehicle for membership in the European Union. But for my country, the real success for the Eastern Partnership in the end is going to be exactly on this matter. I mean, if this Eastern Partnership will facilitate those countries' approachment to the European Union in a way that they can join the Union if they decide so to do, it's up to each country to decide themselves. This is the ultimate test, of course, for this partnership. And for us, we see that this is a good, very vehicle to have closer cooperation and also to provide for the possibility for Eastern partners to join the Union when they are ready for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Please, you have the floor.
So my name is Cynthia Roberts. I'm actually not a diplomat. I'm a professor. I teach European security, and I'm happy to say we actually cover the Eastern Partnership and European neighborhood policies. So students at Columbia do learn these things. So my question is, reflects on what we've learned from now a long period since the end of the Cold War and integration of many East European countries into the European Union. And the good news is that democratic transformation and the building of markets can work, and the EU, indeed, EU leaders have often argued, I think correctly, that this has been the EU's most successful foreign policy. The bad news is that we've also learned where there isn't this incentive structure of membership, those countries that find it helpful to say we'd like to cooperate with the EU without any changes at home or any significant changes in adjustment in the way we do things because they're difficult, they're costly, and sometimes politically untenable, even impossible, such as democratizing for some countries even, doesn't tend to work well. So the idea for the European Union seems to pose a contradiction. On the one hand, everything but institutions suggests it might be not a whole lot. So I would like to ask you really very hard questions in places where there is this problem. How much do you expect to get without some European offer, incentive, or some nod? And particularly, you know, countries where there is such important division and debate like Ukraine on this. Perhaps our chair, the ambassador, would offer his views on this question. And secondly, is it still that much harder now, given that the problems for the Eastern Partnership are perhaps for the first time in the last 20 years less to the east than to the west? Europe is facing its most difficult period for decades and may be fragmenting itself. So you may be trying to join something that is in very difficult circumstances and may look very different in the years to come. How can you manage this, and what are your prospects as you see them individually? Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, first of all, I may tell you frankly, if Ukraine joins, maybe European Union will be better off, you know. So one of the Ukraine's aspirations to join European Union are not only selfish. Ukraine wants to be in the family of nations and to participate in Europe, in big Europe. Okay. Now, and as you examine, if you follow the events in Ukraine, Ukraine has passed its test to a degree, And it looks that the association agreement and all the affiliations with it are at the last stage with minor difficulties, which hopefully will be eliminated shortly. Thank you. Anybody else would like to?
I'll try. Well, the question was that how attractive is the perspective which does not offer institutional integration as its final goal, but instead offers everything else. I think the process of, and I've mentioned that of the sixth instrument the Eastern Partnership has offered so far as a mechanism to get closer to the European Union. We found the exercise as important on itself. A process as important, something which requires a lot of energy, and we've learned a lot from our Finnish friends. I mean, we've studied their lessons quite thoroughly, and as far as I'm concerned, they at some point they've been compelled to double the number of diplomats that had been engaged in talks with the European Union, but unlike Finland, which had to read and digest as few as 300 European Union regulations, we're facing now with as much as 3,000 European regulations, which have to be first translated and then processed through the entire system of state machinery. But it's a learning curve, and what we found interesting is that a certain chemistry between the teams, the negotiating team, and we have not just one team, as you can easily imagine, but a number of them. As the chemistry develops and evolves, we see that certain negotiations have been sped up rather than slowed down as they proceed, but whatever the final outcome of the entire endeavor is, we found it to be very profitable to us in terms of capacity building, enhancing the capacities of state machinery, etc. Another thing I wanted to mention is that among the six participating nations, there is a variety of the ways the state machinery operates, and without specifying, the members, you can see that we're moving towards the European regulation from different directions. You have some economies that are more centralized, and some economies that are probably almost completely deregulated, and so the challenges and the problems the European partners are facing with us are of different nature. With regard to some members of the European partners, the Europeans are in business of arguing less government involvement in, let's say, and more privatization, while in some other cases they are quite insistive in, let's say, make the labor laws much more stronger and allow the workers and the employees to get engaged in collective bargaining agreement. Something the legislation of this particular country has not known yet. You know, the shorter version of this answer, and this is not a politically correct answer, you know, something that I'm saying just because our you know, good friends from the European Union are here. We found the exercise as an important thing in itself. We found it, you know, as having a very positive effect on the way our state machinery operates, and a very useful capacity building tool too.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Kushberg.
Yes, thank you, Ambassador Kuczynski. I'll be short. Of course, uneasy processes witnessed in many parts of the world, not just west of in Western Europe, not only in Eastern Europe. On the other hand, for us, European integration, it is not just joining and getting the institutional membership of one particular organization. As I mentioned, for us it is important to join this space of security and prosperity that is based on shared values and principles that I mentioned before. So I share the opinion of my Georgian colleagues. So it is an exercise that brings us to a stage when we could perform as our European partners do. And this I think is a question and an exercise for academia to compare the level of the crisis. And I think that our colleagues from the European Union, they know better how many crises and at what level hit the European countries and at what stage in history. But the way how the European Union addresses this crisis, how they manage in cooperation to explore and to find solutions, so that attracts, I think, in particular my country. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Roberts, your question is very comprehensive and very important. Several years ago, Ukraine had a much broader program of our future aspirations. It had a name, Euro-Atlantic integration, European Union and NATO. In the middle of this program, we became more pragmatic when we understood that in NATO we had at least 4 member states who were not in favor of Ukrainian membership at all. A few months ago, Ambassador of Russia in Brussels stated that Russia disabled Ukrainian aspirations to be NATO members. So we know how it was organized, but we did not spend this time in vain. As I told in the middle of our dialogue with NATO, we understood that for us, the NATO membership for any price is not very much welcome. But what is more welcomed, to use this dialogue to modernize our army, to modernize our society, to bring Ukrainian perception of the global challenges closer to our partners. And today Ukraine does not declare that we need the membership, but we stay the fidel partners for NATO. And Ukraine is participating in all NATO peacekeeping operations around the world. And so we'll continue that because we need this partnership for many reasons. First of all, to modernize ourselves mentally and technologically. The same approach, I suppose, we have to European Union. We do understand that the institutionalization, it is desired perspective, but we are to live in the realities. And the dialogue with the European Union and the program of the Eastern Partnership is helpful, first of all, to as a stimulus, as a boost for our domestic reforms. So this is more important than the membership to change ourselves and to modernize the society. We are on the crossroads of different interests. That's why we are to be very balanced and be very pragmatic and realistic. That is why we do know how to move ahead. We do understand that we are Europeans, but we are to change ourselves from what we were to what we are to be. We do understand that we did not have this opportunity to have the full membership, just a gift, or even the association membership, which was gifted to many of our colleagues on the Balkans, in the Central Eastern Europe. No, Ukraine used to be and still under the microscope. That's why this is a good challenge and a good stimulation for ourselves and our society. So, answering your question, yes, for us it's more important to change ourselves. And then the rest.
Thank you, Ambassador Sergeyev. Any more questions?
My name is John Trupp, and I'm reporting on this event for the Post-Eagle Week, for the Post-Eagle Weekly newspaper. My question is about one of the several Eastern Partnership flagship initiatives. I'm particularly interested in the initiative that deals with, I'd like to, one of you to kindly elaborate a little bit more about one of the components of one of the Eastern Partnership flagship initiatives. I'm interested in the initiative that is described as dealing with prevention, preparedness, and response to natural and man-made disasters. And I'm particularly interested in man-made disasters, as man-made disasters include cross-border aggression of the kind that Russia launched against Georgia, in the context of an article that appeared in The Economist magazine around this time last year. Toward the end of November, Poland's Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski wrote an article, Pivotal Poland. He wanted to use Poland's presidency of the European Council to turn, that is to pivot, the attention of the European Union toward the East. And in that article, he discussed the possibility of setting up a separate defense component for the European Union outside of NATO, as the United States draws down from Europe. So I'm wondering, in that context, what man-made disasters are included in this flagship initiative?
Thank you very much.
Would you want? Since well, to get right to the point, the European Union's role in providing for security in Georgia is irreplaceable. We've since 2009, so it's already 3 years more than that, we've been having a 200 monitor strong mission, which is called EUMM, European Union Monitoring Mission, which monitors the implementation of the ceasefire agreement between Georgia and Russia. Since the EUMM monitors have been deployed in the country, we've seen a significant decrease in tensions between the occupying forces and our police and military units. So the EUMM, although has not been directly linked with the European, with the Eastern Partnership, but rather is a part of the European Union. Is a part of European Union Georgia interaction. It's been manned by many nations that are presented here by the ambassadors, including Poland and many others. So if you wish, the UMM can be named as one of the practical implementation of this very initiative. However, as far as I'm concerned, the one of the major targets of this initiative has been the the mitigation of the consequences of the Chernobyl catastrophe at the Chernobyl nuclear plant. And this is something probably Ambassador Sergeyev can contribute in a much more competent way than
that. Your question contains several issues. Natural disaster and how we react on that in the region. So we have sub-regional agreement with neighboring countries, Poland, Hungary, Romania, Slovakia, how to react on natural disasters in that region, mostly connected to the floods. So we have a special agreement between the ministers of emergency, and we have a substantial assistance from the Brussels. I mean the NATO engineering facilities also in our disposal, as well as broader. I remember the year of 1998 when the floods created a serious danger of the hepatitis infections of different types. So NATO took the decision to assist our region with the vaccines which were brought from the reserves in Greece. I was ambassador there. So this scheme exists. It needs further development and improvement. As to the security of nuclear power stations, there is a part of Eastern Partnership, a part of our agreement that I read from this text, that European Union will provide enhanced support to Ukraine to assist to create the satisfactory assessment of the level of nuclear safety in all Ukraine's operating nuclear power plant. So this kind of the cooperation exists between Ukraine and Brussels, and thanks to our neighboring countries and Poland mostly, so it is reflected in the partnership, Eastern Partnership Agreement document as one of the important issues. So naturally, such sophisticated technologies as nuclear one needs broader cooperation. And so this broader cooperation, which was mentioned by Ambassador of Poland and EU Ambassador, so comes from other nuclear countries like United States. We are cooperating with Westinghouse to upgrade the safety and security of our nuclear power stations. So the program works, and it is reflected in the partnership, Eastern Partnership Agreement. Broader, answering to your question, what helps us to keep the at least balanced security in the region. So Ukraine, as some of the countries of this configuration, we do have special agreements with NATO, and on the annual base in Ukraine we are hosting dozens of our joint exercises, which creates the atmosphere of confidence in the region. So these exercises bring both member states and non-member states, including Russia, to cooperate under the NATO programs in the region. As well as we do have this program, but it needs broader support and broader understanding from all of us how we may use the mechanism of the Black Sea cooperation facilities, where all of us, we are members of this of this structure, both European and non-European Union members. So at least we have formal instruments which needs to be supported and to be used to create more confidence in the military sphere and in the political as well. So briefly.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ambassador Sergeyev. If there will be more questions, you'll be able to have answers during the reception that will follow, and everybody is invited. Now I'll give the floor to Serge Defer of Sweden for the concluding remarks.
Dear Professor Miskel, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to make a few concluding remarks at this event on the EU-Eastern Partnership, to do so in the presence of distinguished representatives of academia and students of SIPA, as well as diplomatic colleagues from the UN environment. At the outset, I would like to join others in thanking the European Center of SIPA and the Permanent Mission of Poland for organizing this event. By now, you all know the history. The Eastern Partnership was launched in 2009 with the purpose of filling a gap in the EU's external policy, eastwards. The aim of this Polish-Swedish initiative within the EU was to strengthen and deepen contacts and cooperation with the 6 Eastern European countries who had come even closer to the Union after the latest round of enlargement. And the Eastern Partnership, we believe, is an extraordinary and unique tool, a powerful engine pushing the EU and its Eastern partners towards strengthened cooperation and progress. It has created a momentum and a mutual commitment. At this point, it would be extremely hard to reverse this momentum. The challenges, and you've heard of them today, are not insignificant, but the overall achievements so far in just 2 short years have still been remarkable. And you have heard many examples of this today, like the fact that negotiations are now underway on ambitious association agreements with 5 partner countries. This adds more depth and width to the bilateral relations with these countries. And furthermore, negotiations on a deep and comprehensive free trade area are nearly concluded with Ukraine. Negotiations with Georgia and Moldova are expected to start in the very near future, with Armenia to follow thereafter. These agreements will, once in place, lead to greater access to EU internal markets, contributing to increased exports from partners as well as necessary domestic economic reforms. Another example is that of the Eastern Partnership Civil Society Forum. This forum brings hundreds of NGOs and human rights activists from all of Europe together, which is key in order to rally public opinion and broad support for this initiative. The funding component should not be underestimated. The Eastern Partnership has generated more support and assistance to reform processes in the partner countries. The EU contributes about 500 million euro a year to the Eastern partners, and support from bilateral donors is also substantial. And all these steps aim at improving the lives of people in partner countries by facilitating mobility and trade, bringing people from various parts of society together, and guiding partner countries through difficult reform processes. And I think everybody speaking here today would agree that without the Eastern Partnership, we would most certainly not have reached this far by now. Now, during the last 6 months or so, the focus of the EU has naturally been turned mostly southward in the light of the extraordinary developments taking place in North Africa and the Middle East. The EU's engagement in the south, however, is inevitably part of a larger neighborhood policy, which also includes our Eastern European partners. The recent Eastern Partnership Summit in Warsaw provided a good opportunity to take stock of progress made so far and to set new policy goals for the future. the summit managed to produce some substantial results, not in terms of a major breakthrough or big headlines, but the kind of progress that gradually and rather quietly builds the web of European integration. I think this very much defines the work within the partnership. At the summit, the EU and partners also reaffirmed and renewed their commitments to the core values of the partnership: the respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms, democracy, and the rule of law. And furthermore, the principle of more for more, meaning that the more progress a partner country makes on reforms, the greater the assistance and the offer from the EU, was also firmly established at the summit. And this, we hope, will provide further incentive to evolve the partnership. In conclusion, the Eastern Partnership is a clear expression of a long-term engagement from the EU side. Its purpose is to bring the partners closer to the European Union through harmonization and approximation. This is a rather slow and cumbersome process, but one that, if handled correctly, will continue to deepen European integration and bring further tangible results to the benefit of all countries and peoples of the Eastern Partnership. And this makes it all worthwhile. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So what I, excuse me, what I said at the beginning was true. The summit declaration noted progress, and today we've heard the good news. That doesn't always happen at academic institutions, where people try to split the truth 16 different ways and usually talk more about problems than about progress. So I think we learned something today, and we're all going to be watching this project as the partnership moves forward and starts to implement a lot of the plans that it's already begun. I'd like to thank our speakers for coming from the United Nations to talk about this, and for you in the audience for attending. It is not very often that you have 15 ambassadors or more at Columbia University for an event in which you talk about things that most people don't know about. So we are thankful to you, and I invite you all to please enjoy a small reception that we have next door. Thank you.